This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, but you can call me Foo, hence the name of the podcast. And today I have Dr. Keith Johnson. He's a best-selling author and an international speaker. He has spoken on like the biggest stages that you can imagine, so he has a lot of experience on that. So I'm excited to get him to tell you more about that. But first, Keith, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much, James, for having me. I just know that this is going to be one of those broadcasts that people's going to make sure they want to get something to write with, get their iPads out, take some notes, because I'm super excited. You know, here's what I know. Money loves speed, but it hates friction. And we're going to talk today about how to fast track your money, how to fast track your wealth, and no matter what's going on in the world, how you can shift and scale your business, your finances, and your life.
Amazing.
So I'm excited to be with you, man.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, this is what people want to hear. Like, they want speed, but they want to do it practical. They want to be like, look, if I'm going to commit 100%, I want to know that I'm doing it right. So that's why it's so important to get advice from people that have been doing it so well for so long. So let's kick it off with a quick introduction about yourself and your journey, and so people can understand where this advice is coming from.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. Well, it all started with me when I started my business as a speaking business, and I failed miserably. I had like big dreams. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to be successful. I wanted to travel the world, speak to thousands of people. I wanted to be an author, speaker, and man, I failed horribly. I was $180,000 in credit card debt, had no money in the bank. And my wife and I had to face some serious consequences. We had to sell everything we had, and I had to move into my mother-in-law's little 12 by 12 bedroom. I jokingly say it was hell on earth. I mean, it was the worst day of my life. And I never forget the humility, the embarrassment, how humiliated I was. But it was during that time that I made a decision that this was never going to happen to me again. And what I did, James, was I started studying not just millionaires, I started studying billionaires. Because one of the gifts of being in my mother-in-law's house was I started to ask myself the question, how do I get out of here fast? You know? And no matter where you are, like, you may be doing really well with your business right now, but you still want to scale, you still want to grow. Or you may be like in the bottom, you are experiencing a big crisis in your business, or you just may be like plateauing, no matter where you're at, right? The question that you should be asking yourself, just like I had to ask myself, how can I get out of where I'm at as fast as possible? See, when you start asking yourself the right questions, then guess what? The right answer starts showing up. And what I decided to do, I had this thought. I thought, wow, well, I shouldn't study millionaires. I should study billionaires, because like, obviously they made a whole lot of money, like really fast. And so I went on this journey that year of studying everything I could on the top 2% of income earners in the world. And what happened to me, James, is my theology was blown away. I was blown away by the practical things that I'd been taught from my parents, from my teachers in school, and even from preachers where I went to church at. And I started to realize, wow, I have a lot of friction in my mind about money and about how to make it fast. And one of the things I discovered was my problem wasn't that I wasn't making money. My problem was, I wasn't making money fast enough. And all of a sudden, when I realized, wait a minute, what I need to be figuring out here is I made $25,000 last year, and that's my problem. My problem was I made 25, but I needed to figure out, how can I make 25 a month? Because if I can make 25,000 a month, man, my whole life will start changing. I could get out of my mother-in-law's house, right?
Yeah.
And so I started asking myself, how can I do this faster? And then I started searching. Ask, seek, and you shall find. And I started searching. I got to find out. I don't want slow methods, because what I learned from getting mentorship from people who were really super duper wealthy, what I learned was that the majority of the people buy into what I call the wealth in the wheelchair philosophy, which says, basically go to school, get a job, invest in your 401k, and scrimp, barely get by, save as much as you possibly can, and then hopefully cross your fingers, rub a rabbit's foot. Didn't do the rabbit very much good, but anyway, rub a rabbit's foot. And hopefully by the time you're 60 or 70 years old, you'll be able to retire wealthy. And that's what I call wealth in the wheelchair.
Wealth in a wheelchair. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I've never heard that term before.
So it's like, to get to where you want to go financially, what kind of vehicle do you want to get into? You can choose. I mean, you can choose to jump in a wheelchair and try to, go on a 100-mile journey, and it's going to take you forever to get to that 100-mile journey. Or you can choose to ride a bicycle, right? You're going to get there a little faster. You can choose to jump in my Corvette. You can jump in my Corvette. It can go 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, right? Or you can choose, heck with the Corvette. Let's jump in a jet. Let's get there. Or we can say, heck with the jet. Hey, Elon, make me a rocket, man. So you choose, and there's all kinds of people who have all kinds of teachings on different speeds in which to get to the place of growing and scaling your money and your finances. So I didn't want the slow route. I didn't want millionaire route. I wanted billionaire philosophies. And so I started changing. I made the pivots, and man, within 3 years, my friend, everything changed. Everything changed. I mean, I went from being $180,000 in debt to having no bad credit card debt at all. I went from having no money in the bank to building a multi-million-dollar expert empire. I went from living in my mother-in-law's house, hell, to my wife and I building our dream house with absolutely no financial pressure. So I really believe that what we need to hear today are not the old drawn-out strategies that aren't working. James, I live here in Florida, right in the Tampa Bay area, where seniors have flocked for years. And if you live down here, James, you'll find out every first of the month, you'll find seniors waiting for their Social Security check to come in so they can go buy food at the grocery store. You'll find seniors down here, James, and this is the majority of them, who are making decisions. Do I eat? Do I buy medicine? Or do I buy gas this week?
That's crazy.
And here's what I know. That is not. That's a whole generation, James, that bought into the wealth in the wheelchair lie. And what was the problem with it? They never anticipated this big word. And I've been saying it for years. And right now we finally are coming to understand it. I've been saying your money's not growing to the speed of inflation. That's what they didn't figure in. Now seniors are getting pounded in the dirt. They're struggling. They're hurting. And so I just said, man, I'm going to come up. I need to share the 7 things that I learned in my mother-in-law's house that I did to quickly get myself out and turn it all around. And I took all of those concepts and I created these 7 tracks, like fast track. So on a track on a race, I created these 7 tracks. It's not steps. It's not baby steps. We don't need baby steps. We need quantum leaps.
Yeah.
I don't want baby money, man. I don't need no Dave Ramsey baby money. I need massive. I need a lot of money, because our future, James, it's going to be very expensive.
Oh yeah, it's just getting more and more expensive at the time.
Oh, brother, yeah, we haven't seen nothing yet. Hey, man, we got electric cars. We not just electric cars. We got flying cars coming. I mean, we are going to. Your generation's going to see the Jetsons, and it's like people kind of like, oh, that's not. Oh no, they have flying cars created in Israel that you can park in your garage, and you'll be able to back out of it and fly to wherever you want to go. That's the future, my brother. And so we've got to be ready for it. And that's why I wrote this new book for people. So no matter what you're doing, whether you're a professional, whether you're a small business owner or a corporate person, you got to start figuring out, how can I take what I'm earning in a year, and how can I collapse time? How can I make that in a month? Then you got to collapse and say, how can I make this in a week? Then you got to collapse and say, how can I make what I've been making in a year in a day? When I start thinking like this, and I started asking myself and entertaining the question. See, most people, James, they won't even entertain the question. Yeah. But we've got to have a it's possible mindset to have the courage to say, hey, how can I make more money faster?
Yeah, that's key. And that's something that definitely we everybody's kind of looking for that, right? And that's what it's important to be able to talk to people that have done it, right? And that being able to do that, that's what's so important, that you have that book, right? And on that note, like, do you have like you said that you have the 7 fast tracks, and I know that people, you said that you're gonna drop the link and people can get the book for free by being here, which is amazing. But can you give us a quick kind of overview, or not overview, more of like at least get some very actionable things that you can give us, right? Because everybody wants this, right? What you said, all these different things that you mentioned, everybody wants fast, everyone wants to do efficient. So can you give us some actionable tips that people can take action right now after this podcast?
Yeah, hey, that's a great question. Let me go over the 7 tracks. Let's just hit those real quick. We'll punch them and do a little punch. Track number 1, live in the future today. My multimillionaire mentor taught me, he said, Keith, he says, you've got to learn to see a future before it ever exists. And that's why the Creator gave all of us an imagination. And I talk a lot about the power of the imagination, the ability to be able to create. As long as you can create, you're never a victim. And so your mind, it has 3 things. You have an imagination, you have a memory, and you have the ability to reason. Your imagination gives you the ability to go in the future and to see the possibilities of what you can be, do, have, and help in the future. And then you can come back into the present, see what's possible, come back, and then work yourself towards creating this new life. Too many people, James, they don't live out of their imagination. They live out of their memory. They're too focused on the past, or they're too focused on what is. And my millionaire mentor told me, say, Keith, he said, you need to set a goal to become a millionaire. And I'm like, a millionaire? I'm like, oh, I'm a millionaire. He says, yes, Keith. And he hit me with this, and it was so powerful. He said, Keith, set a goal to become a millionaire, not for the money or the possessions, the fancy cars, fancy houses. Set a goal to become a millionaire for the person you'll have to become in order to achieve such a lofty goal. And man, I'm telling you, and he looked at me and he says, how much money you got in the bank? I said, $247. He says, I can tell you got a lot of growth that needs to happen in your life.
Yeah, we were talking about that in my previous podcast. Actually, I was talking that I had Gary Brackett, and we were talking about that, about becoming a seven-figure person, because like you can't have a seven-figure business if you're not a seven-figure business owner. So that is, and then reverse engineer that, right? Like kind of like you were saying, like okay, what does a seven-figure business owner does? And that's why it's so and this is not the first time that I hear about learning about, if you want to learn about business, how to start and all these things, is listen to or read the autobiographies of billionaires, right? Like that's a common advice. So definitely, there has to be something to it, right? Because a lot of people are doing it, and a lot are reading into that and getting success. So that's amazing. I have the shoe dog they got from the Nike creator, Phil. I forgot his last name, but I have it in my bathroom, and I've been reading that because of our coaching program. So anyway, so I really like that first fast track, right? Like that first track of bringing the future to the present, and that resonates with me a lot, because I feel like I've always been like that. And I always thought about a future where mundane tasks get taken away. Now, like I don't think in the near future, I would see like a Tesla bot or some other competition. We're gonna start cooking for us. It's gonna start doing the dishes, doing all these different things. We have dishwashers now, but now we're gonna have somebody that actually puts them there, right? Like I'm looking forward to that. So that's when you say about the Jetsons and all the future thing. I relate to that a lot, because I've been thinking about that for a long time now, with AI being democratized, like with OpenAI and all these things that everybody's getting the API, and things are gonna get crazy. So definitely completely agree with what you're saying, and aligns perfectly with my mission, vision, and everything. So I can be a testimony on that. So then what's that second track?
I wish I could go over all seven, but it looked like we're kind of running out of time. But let me add this one. One of the things that I learned in my mother-in-law's house, and still a lot of people really don't grasp this, is the concept of multiple streams of income. So whenever we talk about getting somewhere fast, right? The old system is about addition. So the old financial gurus used to teach us, put a little bit of money each week, and you're going to earn a little bit of interest, and then wait and wait and wait and wait. And you make a little skimper and little bit of money on what you invest in the savings account. Well, what we're looking at is not addition. If we want speed, we got to look at multiplication. So what I learned back then was, how do I create multiple streams of income? And when I learned the concept of, wait a minute, you know what? I was a speaker back then, but I didn't have a coaching business. I didn't have an education business. I didn't have my real estate. I didn't have all these other different streams of income flowing into my life. And I realized then that the wealthy have multiple streams of income, and that the key to getting out of debt was not focusing on debt. It was focusing on income, and getting as much income into my life as possible and as fast as possible to squash that debt. And since we're talking about the Jetsons, we got to learn, if we're looking at, well, what streams can I create? And this is what I'm really big into now, James. Every person right now needs to understand what age we're in. We're not in the farming age anymore. We're not in the industrial age. We are in the information age still. We are still in the information age. And we've got to understand that the quickest way today to make as much money as fast as possible is to become an infopreneur, is to become a speaker, coach, and consultant. Because if you're going to start a business or a side hustle, today the number one side hustle, you know what it is? It's Uber, driving for Uber, And the number one reason why they're driving for Uber is to pay for going out to dinner on the weekends. It's like, really? Oh my goodness. There's a lot better way. There's a lot better way. Get into the flow of the digital age. Learn how to take your story and create income producing generation from that. And you'll find when you study this whole industry, it's producing more multimillionaires faster than ever. So you want to find an industry that has the largest margins and is producing the most millionaires ever. There's two, if you research it, there's two ways to do that. Either tech or becoming an infopreneur. And the cool thing is everybody has a story. Everybody has a problem they've overcome. Everybody has a special expertise, a special level of knowledge that they can take that, package that in a program that gives you step 1 through 7, and you can sell that product online and make money and help other people. So that's what I'm really, the final track for us is mind your business. Mind business. That's the final track, mind business. Stop using your muscles. Muscles is for the farming age. You needed muscles. Muscles is for the industrial age. Come bring me your muscles. Now it's mind.
Yeah. And like I was saying earlier about, with AI and all this futuristic things happening, it's becoming more and more a matter of strategy. That's why I call myself a PR strategist and I'm not a publicist, because I do pitch, right? It's not like I don't pitch, but I do have a senior publicist in my company that's the main one that is pitching, and I focus on the strategy of things, because after you set up a strategy, everything is a lot easier, because it's like setting up the GPS, right? You set up the GPS and now it's just follow the turns. You might find that there's a crash or something. You might have to take a different route, but then you strategize again, right? You set up the GPS again. So for me, I've learned a lot from Jason Miller, specifically. That's the guy that I talk the most, and he has become a great mentor for me. And he's the CEO of Strategic Advisor Board, which is the owner of this podcast. And because of spending so much time with him, and he's a business strategist, I've become a lot of like a strategist, and I love it because, like I was saying earlier, all this mundane task, right? All physical and stuff are getting replaced by robots and stuff, right? Automation. So now it's how can we strategize things, because the information is out there, right? So it's not just having the information, it's the strategy behind that, right? How to take this information and apply it this certain ways. And obviously, things change a lot. So then you can always say, like, this is the framework that I use, but now you got to bring the future to your present, like you were saying too. And now you got to look, if I did my $1 million this way, now you have to be like 10 times better than me, because things have changed, right? By the time I'm teaching you this, time has gone by, markets has changed. So that's our compilation of the things that I've learned from mentors, from different coaches. And that's how, like, I call myself a PR strategist, because it's all about strategy. And I love it. And now it's the next level of evolution is how can we ask, right now in ChatGPT, it's all about how good of a question or a prompt you give it. That's how good of information you get. So that's the new reality. How can I ask the right questions? How can I package things in a way that are digestible and people can really take action on them and be successful, right? And not just copy paste entrepreneurs, right? Because that's not the idea. Is the framework, so then you can unlock your own uniqueness, your own creative, so to give your flavor to the world, and then you can sell that, right? So that's my take on that, and that's why I was like looking for tips from you, right? To get something that the audience can really take and be like, okay, I'm gonna go and do this right now after listening to this podcast. So on that note, what is the biggest takeaways that you want to leave the audience with?
Well, one of the biggest things I think is what you just said, is that if you want to scale, if you want to multiply your income, you got to get the right strategies, right? There's all kinds of strategies, right? But there's, again, slow strategies, there's medium strategies, and there's fast strategies. And what you want is the strategies that get you the results as fast as possible. And so that's why I wrote Financial Fast Track. These strategies that I learned almost 20 years ago, I have continued to go back to them over and over and over again at each time that I wanted to scale. But it was because I learned these strategies from billionaires. And the same strategies that were working back then when I was $150,000 in debt are the same ones now that I became a millionaire. And how do I scale to 10? How do I scale to 100 million? And so getting the right strategy is critical. And that's why my book is more than a book. It's a strategic plan. 7 strategies on how to fast track. And for your audience today, it's free. All you got to do is go to financialfasttrack.com. You pay shipping and handling. My wife and I bought all the copies. They're sitting in that warehouse. We bought them all from our publisher. They're sitting in the warehouse. We're shipping them out to people. And you can get yours. Just financialfasttrack.com. Go over there and get the strategies you need. And one of the things that I think that is really important is that we read. You know, the speed of your learning is going to determine the speed of your earning.
Very powerful phrase there.
Of your learning is going to determine the speed of your earning. So we've got to, you're familiar with Wayne Gretzky, right? And he was asked, he said, the great hockey player, he's like a legend, right? And he was asked, he said, what's the key to you being such a successful hockey player? And he says, I never skate to where the puck is. I skate to where the puck is going, right? And so that's what we want to do. We've got, because things are changing, like you mentioned, so fast. Like I used to teach, James, that everything's changing every 5 years. Then I was like, everything's changing every 3 years. Then I was like, everything's changing every year. And you know what it is now, James? Everything's changing every 3 months.
Every 90 days, there's a big shift
Our learning
nowadays.
has to increase exponentially, and we got to stay on top. So if you're a leader in your corporation, your business, or whatever, and you're a consumer, and all you're doing is sitting around watching TV, you know, watching all the football games, all the basketball games, but you're sitting there saying, I want to be a multi-millionaire. Let me tell you, you're never going to be one. You're never going to be one because you're too slow. Your learning's too slow. And where you're going to head is you're going to head towards destruction if you don't stay ahead of the curve.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And it's crazy, like, to think three months ago, ChatGPT did not exist, right? Like, did not exist. I use ChatGPT every single day now. So, and that was just 2 months ago it came out, right? And
Crazy.
I use it every single day, and I'm not even like tapping its full potential, right? I'm just using it for content, to make my words better, to transcribe things, and that way I can really take advantage of I already have the information. I put it out without having to worry about making it super no fluff or anything. I just kind of just ramble, and then from there take the transcript, put in ChatGPT, and it's like, make the best points from what I just said. Boom, and then I have this, right? And I use that with my clients too, and it's been amazing.
Crazy.
So yeah, it's true how, like, you know, every 3 months right now there's a big shift. Like, oh, like COVID happened, everything's shifting. Oh, no, there might be a war, everything's shifting. Everything is like, right. Who knows what's gonna happen, what Q2 has for us in store, right? Like, who knows? So definitely thanks for taking the time, and this has been very interesting, and You definitely, I usually don't have people that are standing up like me. So like very high energy, and I love it because I love being stand up. So thanks for taking the time. So last thing will be, how can people find you?
Yeah. Again, just go to financialfasttrack.com, get that book, connect up with me. Once you connect up with me, you'll get in our ecosystem, and you can get more great trainings and teachings like this. And of course, all my social media is at Dr. Keith Johnson. You can find me, and I would love to connect up with some of your people and add value to you. The last thing I would say to all you leaders is, one of the number one skills you need today is the ability to be agile. To be agile. You've got to be able to pivot. You've got to be able to embrace change and love change. And a lot of people, a lot of leaders are under stress because they're just not realizing that I've got to develop a skill. Being agile is a skill that you got to develop. And the longer you wait and don't pivot and change and embrace the new change, embrace the new technology, the greater the pain is going to be in your life. So develop that skill this year, and especially with your money. You got to get rid of old strategies, old things that aren't working anymore, and start embracing some new thoughts, new strategies, and new tactics to scale and grow. We've got a bunch, James. We got a bunch of guys in my circle that aren't 30 years old yet, and they're already multimillionaires. Okay, they've been listening to me since their 20s. Now they're multimillionaires. And yet we've got people, James, in their 40s and 50s, like doubting. You start talking about money loves speed, and things can change in a couple of years, and you could become a multimillionaire. And people in their mind say, I don't believe that can happen. Well, if you don't believe it, here's what I'll tell you. It never will. But I've got evidence of people that it has worked. So instead of looking for why it can't happen, be agile, pivot, change how you believe, how you think, your strategy, and embrace something new, and watch and see what can happen for you.
Yeah, that goes very aligned with a phrase that I use a lot here because of one of the guests that I had here really impacted me, which is Terrence X. Johnson. I call him Mr. J. And he told me, you don't get what you want, you get what you believe. And that aligns very well to what you were telling me just now. So and it's something that I literally, like, I repeat this to myself. Like, it's not like I want this or I want that or putting the blame on people. No, like, I have to believe that I am deserving of this and really like visualize myself having it. And like, look, I deserve this. I believe that I should have this, and I believe that I deserve it. And that's a big thing for it. So I think that was a good note to kind of wrap this up. And thank you again, Dr. Keith. This was powerful, and I look forward to learning more about you. I'll check out the book and everything, and let's see what happens after there. Right, the possibilities are endless. So
good connecting up with you. Thanks for having me on, my brother.
Yeah. So this was Dr. Keith Johnson and Fu, and this is us signing off.
Thanks for listening to Moments with Fu with your host, Fu. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.